So my most recent Children of Men video did pretty good, or at least pretty good for, being one of my videos. And on that video, I've received quite a few comments from people asking for more Children of Men content. So, here you go. My last video was about the world of Children of Men. There was a general theme for that video about people not having any hope and, finding things to add fulfillment to their life, meaning to their life. This video isn't going to have a theme like that. This video is just going to be a list of some other interesting things that I've noticed about Children of Men, mostly about its world, but also just, anything about the film in general. So it's not going to be scripted, it's not going to be organized, there really isn't going to be much of a point to it. It's just going to be me listing off some things about Children of Men and its world that I have found interesting. Hopefully you will find them interesting as well. So the film came out in 2006. And its story is set in 2027. So while the movie is a look at the future, it is definitely the near future. Now, putting the plague of infertility that is infecting this future aside, I still think they did a pretty good job of visualizing what the world would look like in the 2020s. Now that we are into the 2020s, we can notice that a lot of the technology that filled the world of Children of Men is now filling our own real world. For instance, there's the Google Glass devices that the soldiers are wearing, the common usage of solar panels, and then rear view cameras in vehicles. And then speaking of vehicles, I also like that all of the cars in the film are these tiny little cars. You don't really see many large sedans. I mean, there's the luxury car that Theo rode around in that his rich cousin would have access to, but for the most part, most of the vehicles that we see the characters driving are these mini hatchbacks, CSUV type vehicles. I find it interesting that as we get farther into the 2020s, these are the sort of cars that we see in the real world. It's all about the little Priuses and the Subarus now. And while on the topic of the year, the time that the film takes place in, I like the little touch of Theo wearing a sweater that shows the 2012 London Olympics. And it looks all old and tattered, like, again, this film takes place in 2027, so 2012, that was a while ago. But when the movie came out, 2012 wasn't going to be for a while. I don't know, it's a neat little thing to notice. This one is a little harder to find. I don't know, maybe it means nothing, maybe I'm full of it. But when Theo, Miriam, and Key are waiting for Sid to pick them up from the abandoned school, the abandoned school that's been retaken by nature, there are these stone dinosaur statues that you can see in the background. It could be like a little clue or a symbol of humanity's possible extinction. I like that the only people who don't live in total squalor in the Brexhill ghetto are former communists. Like, if you follow all the photos from their past, you can see that they were involved with the Soviet Union. And it checks out. You can see how old this woman just turned. You can see her photo from the past, like she would have lived through the Soviet Union. Anyways, I just enjoy the irony of the fact that the only people who are living in luxury amongst the poor are the communists. And then the cherry on top here is that they built their fortress out of an abandoned bank. Symbol of capitalism and all that. I don't know, it's cool. I like that Julian has a small little tattoo of a bird, or at least I think it's a bird, on her neck. And in the scene where we first meet Julian, we can hear sound effects of birds flying all around her. I'm sure there's plenty of symbolism you could pull out of this, to say something about her character or whatever, but what I find most interesting about this tattoo is that it is the exact place where she is shot. The bullet hits her right in that tattoo on her jugular. Now maybe they gave her character this tattoo just because in the scene where she's bleeding out of her neck, it was easier to hide some sort of blood-squirting special effects device behind a tattoo instead of having some sort of weird ridge or blemish on her skin. It could all be because of that, or maybe it has some other meaning. Either way, I think it's a nice little interesting touch to her character. This next one, it's just a quick one. I'm sure plenty of you have noticed this, but I find it hilarious that in both of these action scenes, Patrick is defeated by a car door. I like that Theo's cigarettes have this unique look. I first noticed this when I was working on my last video. Theo's smoking was a major part of it. I realized that throughout the movie, Theo lights quite a few cigarettes, but he only takes a couple puffs on them. We never see him ever finish one. But if you look close at his cigarettes, you can see that they only have enough tobacco in them to have a couple puffs. If we look close at his pack of cigarettes, we can see that they read Super Filter. It's interesting that within this world, the cigarette companies are going to make products that they can at least claim are less deadly, while at the same time, on every television and billboard, there are advertisements for a drug that literally kills people. Oh, and while on the topic of the quietest drug commercial being on the TV, in the shot where it's playing, right as Theo wakes up, I think it's an interesting little touch, or maybe just a cool coincidence, that as the actor in the commercial begins to move, begins to rise up, Theo, at the same time, almost in sequence with him, rises up himself. It's almost like their movement is synced up, like they have something in common, especially considering the fact that they're both looking at the sun, with Theo presumably seeing a sunrise just as he wakes up, and the character in this suicide commercial seeing a sunset as he dies. This one's going to sound a little weird, but I like this film's inclusion of oranges. You see, there are two major action scenes, I guess you could call them, in this film. There's the one where Julian dies in the car, and then of course there's the one at the end, the battle in the refugee camp. Right before these incredibly intense moments in the film, right before the action is about to start, right before the people are going to start dying, there are oranges. Miriam opens up a bag and starts eating an orange in the back seat right before they get ambushed in the car. And then Key and that old communist woman eat an orange right before we start the final tracking shot. Both of these little orange eating moments, they're like calms before the storm. Now forgive me because I'm about to go off on a weird tangent, but I find it interesting, so maybe you will too. So all the way back in The Godfather Part 1, in that famous scene where there is an assassination attempt on Vito Corleone, Vito is buying oranges, and as he gets shot, the oranges spill out onto the ground, roll all over. It's a very distinct looking, memorable shot. For some reason, since this scene, film reviewer, analyzer, film buffy meh, people like me, have discussed what the symbolism of the oranges could be. A lot of people decided that the oranges could symbolize death or impending danger or something like that. Now, in terms of The Godfather Part 1 in this scene, I think that's mostly just not true at all. The oranges are there to just pop out, to add a little bit of color to the scene. There are also these ominous flames coming from a burn barrel. Those are orange, so maybe all the oranges are there to match with that. And also, you can't really add any significance to the oranges in this scene because there are tons of oranges throughout the entire movie. The filmmakers just put a lot of oranges around the sets because oranges look cool. But this hasn't stopped the theory of the oranges representing death. This hasn't stopped this from essentially becoming a meme in filmmaking. Because now plenty of filmmakers actually use the orange to symbolize some sort of impending death or doom. In the scene of The Sopranos, just like with Vito Corleone, he is the boss and people try and kill him and they wound him and you think he might die, but then he doesn't. It's a scene that really makes you think of The Godfather Part 1. Before getting shot, Tony Soprano didn't buy oranges, but he did buy orange juice, which, just like with Vito's oranges, it spills all over the ground in the chaos. People have pointed to the bowl of oranges in American Beauty and how it sits right next to the picture of Lester's family. The picture that Lester sits down and looks at right before he is killed. In Breaking Bad, when Ted trips and paralyzes himself, basically removing him from the show, again there is a bowl of oranges and they fall onto him. Hell, even 15 years later, when Coppola came back to make The Godfather Part 3, right before Michael dies, at the very end of the movie, he even has him holding an orange. I think it's just sort of become kind of a meme for filmmakers to have oranges symbolize doom in their projects. Maybe it's a joke, or maybe it's just an homage to The Godfather. Anyway, this has been a long and mostly pointless tangent, so yeah, what I'm saying is that the director of Children of Men, Alfonso Cuarón, he also is kind of winking at the audience here by having oranges before our big, violent scenes of the film. Whether these oranges are actually meant to be symbolic of death, or whether it's just an homage to The Godfather, I don't know, but I do think it is an interesting little touch. I also love that the location of the Ark of the Arts is the old Battersea Power Station. It was a staple of London until it closed in 1970. Then Pink Floyd used it for the album cover to Animals in 1977, which of course this film acknowledges. So it's been a building that is rich in history, and the government has constantly wanted to do something with it, but it's always been too decrepit to fully salvage into actually doing something. It's really only known now in the art scene, with performance art shows appearing in it, and then movies using it as filming locations, and then, of course, obviously this all started from the album cover, but it's really well known in the art scene, so it makes perfect sense that in Children of Men's world, of all the places the British government would choose to house this institution that saves old works of art, it would be this building. And then I guess this one will be my last one. I like that the cause of humanity's infertility in this world is a mystery in the story. But I also think that there are some clues to what the cause could be. I think it involves these burning cows our characters drive past. Now, the film is trying to tell us that these burning cows are important, because we don't only see them once, we see them 3 times. And the first 2 times we see them, we have no idea why. They're just these cows being burned. It's just a confusing, strange, I mean, it could represent, the wastefulness or maybe the shrinking population. We don't need this meat anymore. I mean, it could represent many things, but we don't know why this is physically happening within this world. But the final time that we see them in the movie, the reason is made clear. We see the farmland is being polluted by factories off in the distance. Toxic water flows from the direction of the pollution, and more dead animals and litter are scattered all around. This pollution, this poison, explains why these cows were burned. Their milk would be no good. With us learning about Key's pregnancy while she's surrounded by cows, and with cows, obviously being these givers of milk, like mothers, I think this sort of hints at mass industrialization and pollution being the cause of humanity's infertility.
You know what they do to these cows? They cut off their tits. Only leave 4. 4 tits fits the machine. It's wacko. Why not make machines that suck 8 titties, eh?
Now, this doesn't confirm pollution as the cause, but I think it is an interesting suggestion. All right, well, those are all of the little details that I have. For now, I'm sure the next time I watch Children of Men, I'll notice 10 more things, because it seems that no matter how many times I watch it, I always notice something new. The movie is just that layered and dense. Okay, I've gushed about the film enough. Thank you for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, all that stuff. All right, hope to see you again. Goodbye.